Hello again. Let's talk a little bit now about how to manage your time during an essay exam. Because after all, writing against the clock can be very nerve-wracking for a lot of folks, and I totally understand that. But there's a way that you can actually manage your time so that you're able to accomplish your task and not feel overwhelmed. So as I mentioned in the previous clip, you're given 50 minutes or 10 minutes shy of an hour in order to complete your placement test. So let me show you now how to actually divide up your time for those 50 minutes. I recommend that you break up your time into 10 minutes, 30 minutes, and 10 minutes. Right? You take the first 10 minutes, and what you do is you make sure that you really understand what's being asked of you. So on that exam sheet that you're given, that has the reading passage and has the 2 questions on it, you might want to mark that up just a little bit, right? Read it, underline some things, perhaps rewrite some ideas that come into your mind as you're reading the passage. Really make sure that you understand what the task is. And then maybe do some outlining or some brainstorming. List a couple of ideas that might work. If you have a couple of different hobbies that friends over the years have told you are a little bit on the odd side, maybe you might list each of them, be it video games or horseback riding or being fascinated about the weather, whatever the case might be. Maybe just list all those ideas because those are all potential topics and start figuring which one you think may be the most interesting for you to write about or which you've had the most vivid experience with someone saying, hey, that was kind of an odd hobby. Right? Once you've organized your ideas, then you actually devote about a half an hour to composing, actually writing the essay itself. Right? Realize that you're writing different passages of it, different parts of it, and just really kind of keep an eye on the clock. If you have a wristwatch with you, one thing I suggest is maybe take it out and just put it in front of you above the paper. Just this way you can see how much time is actually passing. And then in your final 10 minutes, actually go back and reread what you wrote. And I recommend what you do after you write the last word in your conclusion, just take a break. Just catch your breath, maybe shut your eyes for a moment, do a little meditation, and then go back and reread it. And then feel free to mark or make some changes or maybe add in some additional details that you might have forgotten to include when you were writing it the first time, but you feel are now relevant or useful and you'd like to go ahead and add them in. Right? So breaking it up into 10 minutes, 30 minutes, and 10 minutes, that really helps you to organize your time and helps to not make the whole time seem overwhelming, as you now have a very specific focus and a way to structure the time that you're actually given. Now, what I want to do is give you some tips for that time, right? And how you can really make sure that you write a good timed essay. So one of the first recommendations I have is to use the full time given. You don't get extra points for being done first, right? In fact, your best essay is going to be a result of spending 50 full minutes working with it as opposed to just getting it done in 10 minutes. Because after all, this does determine which class you get placed into, so you really want to make sure that it is your best effort. So use the whole time that you're given. As I alluded to previously, you might want to mark up your exam sheet. So for example, highlight quotes or passages that you think are really interesting, that really stand out for you. Maybe when you're done with the reading passage, take and summarize what the main idea is in the margin. And then as you go and you look at your 2 options, maybe one thing that you might do is rewrite the questions in your own words beneath the questions on the exam sheet, just to verify for yourself that you really understand what the writing task is. As I've often found over the years that when students are actually able to reproduce something in their own words, it helps them to really kind of better understand the material. So don't be afraid to mark on the exam paper. The other thing I recommend is that when you're actually in that stage of composing, that you skip some lines in between the paragraphs. What that allows you to do is that if you forget certain details or you want to expand upon certain details afterwards, you can very easily go back in and just attach them to the end of the paragraphs because you've given yourself some space to be able to do so. And you don't have to leave a lot of lines, maybe 3 or 4. And what that also does, that helps to make the writing on the paper a little bit neater and easier for the readers to read. Even if you don't use those lines that you skipped, you wind up doing your readers a favor because for sure they can see where paragraphs begin and end with that space. Also, don't be afraid to edit the draft. So if you go through and you see that you put the wrong word or you misspelled a particular word, just go ahead and draw a line through it and then write the correct word above it. Or if you realize that you missed a word, draw a small arrow and then insert the word where it should actually go. What this tells the readers is that you understand that editing needs to happen in the writing process and that you're able to catch some of your own grammar mistakes. It probably means that you're in pretty good shape and poised for college level writing if you're able to do that. And then if you do get done early, some people are fast writers. Maybe go back and rewrite it and do a second draft. And if that's the case, you'll have the opportunity to be able to add more details, be able to fix some of the grammar that you may want to change around. And also that also shows us that you have the ability to be able to run things through a writing process. And you can also neaten up the handwriting, as sometimes when we're writing a first draft, the handwriting can get a little tiny bit messy. If you rewrite it, you may focus a little bit more on the neatness of the penmanship, and that makes it easier for the writer to be able to read. All you would have to do is be able to mark your draft, first draft, second draft, so the reader knows ultimately which one they should actually use to base their score on. And let's say you start a rewrite, but you're not able to finish it completely. Well, that's okay. All you have to do on the rewrite is say, look on first draft for the final 2 paragraphs, and the reader will just go back and look at the end of the first draft, realizing that you just ran out of time for doing the rewrite. Right? Again, the scorers, when they get the document, they get everything from the marked up exam sheet to all of your drafts, to your brainstorming, to whatever it is that you worked on. So don't throw everything away. Make sure all of that gets handed in. And don't be afraid to ask for more paper, right? You're only given a couple of sheets when you get the original exam paper, but there's no reason why you can't ask for more, right? You can write an essay that is as long as you would like it to be, just as long as it is an essay and it answers the question posed and demonstrates this is your best possible sample at this time so we can place you in the appropriate English class. In the next video clip, I'll do a final recap of everything that we learned in this online refresher course and give you some final bullet points to remember as you walk into the testing center to sit down and take your writing placement test.
This project has been made possible by a grant from Pathways and the support of the Lash Center for Teaching and Learning at Bristol Community College.